So Protoje, man, good to chat to you. The new album is out now. Are you excited about the release?
I'm very excited, man. I'm very excited. I really put a lot of work into it. My first album, I executive produced myself. So, I'm glad to hear how it came out. People are really responding to it well. So, I'm very grateful for the support.
I mean, it's been nearly 10 years now since your first album, 7 Year Itch. Is it still as exciting releasing new albums now? Do you still get that same buzz, when you're putting it out there to the fans?
Yeah, I've never been excited about a record like this one. It's the first one in my studio, new record deal, executive producing it, working with different producers for the first time. It's just been the best experience I've ever had in making music.
So why did you decide to executive produce this one?
I just thought I was ready. I've spent enough years learning from like great producers, and I think nobody has a better handle over the type of sound I want to create than myself. I've done my work, I've done my research, I've built my skills up. So I felt I was ready to commandeer a bunch of producers to give me exactly what I wanted.
And building that skill as a producer, is that something that you've just sort of picked up from working with, great producers like Winter James? Is that, has he kind of taught you stuff, subconsciously over the years?
Yeah, subconsciously and consciously, he's been a great mentor for me musically, and taught me a lot about music and textures and tones and finishing. He's a great finisher, he knows how to put the final touches on. So I've learned a lot from him about that.
And I think one of my favorite songs on the album has got to be Like Royalty, with Popcorn, which I think is a lot of people's favorite song on that album so far.
So
Obviously
far,
it's
yeah.
still fresh. How did that link up come about? Because, it was kind of unexpected, but at the same time, it made so much sense.
It's right, bro. Popcorn is a legend, absolute legend. He's been a colleague of mine. We both about the same time got into the business about the same time, and it was just time. I went and did a show in Portland, and he was like, "Yo, 2020, we have to make music," and I was like, "Say less." And I just found the song I thought was perfect, and I knew if me and him did something, it had to be an anthem. I had already done the chorus and the verses, but I was like, yo, he'll add so much to it. And he did that and lifted the song to another level.
And the visuals for that song are crazy, man. Like, that's got to be one of the best videos that I've seen in a long minute, man. For especially for a reggae record, how important are the visuals? Because that's something that you've done, very well in your career.
I think visuals are super important now more than ever. People are very visual. They want to see something. They go on their Instagram, their Twitter, everything. They want to see something. Look at most of the apps that have been super successful, TikTok, Instagram, especially, it's all about being able to see content. So YouTube must be one of the most, I don't know the stats, but it has to be one of the most viewed sites in the world. And people are signing on to look. If you give them something to look for, it's a bonus. And then secondly, if you do something in a visual that makes the song feel better and capture the feel of it, somebody that may have listened to your song once and be like, it's cool, and see a visual, they may be like, wow, this is so dope. So I think it's super important, and I was happy to do that video here and all the vibes with other artists in it.
So how much work goes into making a video like that? Because it's, it can't be a simple production doing something like that.
More work than you can imagine, bro. Like, especially this video was a trip to get done, but it got done, and everybody was positive, the vibe was good, so it didn't feel like lots of work, to
Mm.
me. But I'm sure some people were mental about the work they had to do.
And it's interesting you mentioned about how, you and Popcorn got into the business around the same time. Obviously, Popcorn kind of, he almost like, he catapulted into superstardom from a very young age, whereas it seems as if the older you get, the more in your prime you get, which is quite unusual for an artist, because usually, an artist sort of, you know, of a similar age to you will usually be declining, whereas you seem to just be constantly like ascending.
Thank you. First of all, I think it's strategy. I know a lot. I read a lot. I read a lot of 18th century stuff when people had to be trying to survive in a court, in a king's court, and not get your head chopped off. And basically, the key to survival. There are many, many keys to survival, but one thing I've learned from one of my favorite authors, Baltasar Gracian, is that you don't give up everything one time. You don't go to your ultimate. You don't give them everything. I feel lots of time with artists, you're excited, you get into the game and you want to show all your skills. You want to show I can do this, I can do that. I'm so great. And I think a lot of times um you'll burn out and people will see everything that you can do, and then 5 years in you can't give them anything new. There's so much stuff that I can do musically that, and even my team will be so upset at me. They'll be like, yo, release this, like let people hear it, like they'll never know you can. And I'm like, yo, if I do it in time and in stages, it's gonna be longevity. So when I'm 10 years in and I break out a new style or a new sound, and people are like, yo, this is so fresh, it's so crazy. I mean, I could have did it 5 years ago, but then, you know what I mean? It's like, for me, I try to stretch out my accomplishments and let them not be centered at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And another artist who has kind of shot to you know, massive fame really early is Koffee, an artist who you featured on the album. Tell us about your relationship with Koffee.
She's amazing. She's amazing. She deserves everything that she's getting. She's a phenom, an absolute prodigy. Um, Her flows and patterns and lyrics, she's in a class by herself. Like nobody is touching her. And I think we've had a really good relationship. She really expressed to me how much I have influenced her and the impact I've had on her life. And it's very humble, you know, when somebody is at it's her genre right now, in terms of like it's her time where the whole world is looking at her, and for her to be conscious and to even say publicly like, yo, you know, this man has really influenced what I've done. It gives me a good vibe. And then when we're together, it's vibes, you know. She's chill, she's quiet like I am, so we just chill and be quiet. And in studio, she's a monster, you know.
So tell us about the making of Switch It Up. How did that come about?
Just from she came out, she came out, she was like, yo, I want to do a song. When we do a song together, it's gonna be crazy. And it was a time we were both here stuck in Jamaica. It was quarantine. I was like, yo, come pull up to my studio. And she came up to my studio like 3 days in a row and did the song. And it was just, I was just in studio. She didn't talk. She was just sitting there for 3 hours. And then she was like, all right, I'm done. And then she starts and I'm like, what? Like, where did you come up with these flows? And I was like, smoke. And then on the second verse, obviously, like we're going bar bars for bars, and like she's done, and I have to go inside, and I'm like, yo, this is crazy. And I go and I write my verse and I do it, and she comes back in and does something else, and I'm like, bro, like I don't know, like I don't know how much more I have, you know what I mean? Because she was amazing. So it was a good experience for sure.
And that's interesting because, you know, you've been a great influence to her, but I imagine she influences you as well.
It's definitely I'll say she definitely influenced, had an influence on this project as well. Just how she has took the flows, updated them, put them in a different patterns and styles, and it's like you hear it and you're like, wow, this is dope. And then you see a song you're working on and you'll be like, you know, I in my style. And it's funny because she came up off my style, so it's a updated. So it's like, for me, it's easy to see the patterns and things that she's doing. It's not easy to do, but it's easy to see what she's doing, you know what I mean? And she and a lot of artists, and it's good to just keep evolving and developing your style and improve.
And I'm sure, you know, you would never want to take any sort of credit for any artist's success, but you know, I mean, in some ways, I guess you know, artists like yourself, you know, Jan 9, the artists that were there at the beginning of the, you know, the so-called Reggae Revival, you've kind of paved the way for artists like Chronix, like Koffee, you know, to have this success, I think.
I mean, like all who have eyes can see, you know what I mean? Just like ones that came before me, it's like you try to do something and you try to do your best and you hope it influences people, and then also you try to leave a good infrastructure for them to not have to do some of the work that you had to do. But if they're not prepared, it doesn't matter what you give them or do for them, it won't work. So it's gonna always boil down to the artist and what they are doing.
And, you know, aside from Koffee, there's a lot of artists who have cited you as a mentor, as, you know, an inspirational figure. Is that something that you set out to be, you know, like a mentor to the artist, or were you always just focused on the music itself?
It's focused on the music, but it's like my vision and like how I see things is one of my greatest gifts in music. Like my ability to see what can work and what won't work. So if I see an artist who is a colleague or a friend and I see them doing something and I know, wow, like all they have to do is do this or try this and it will make their careers blossom. It's hard for me to sit there and not say anything. The problem I would find is that sometimes people feel like trying to or maybe you're trying to it would be tricky. So I kind of was like, you know what, like these things I have, I still do them, but I'm gonna work with some artists that really want my guidance, and I don't really go looking for it. I kind of see who seeks me out, and I'm done giving unsolicited advice. Like I'm done doing that. So it's somebody reaches out, be like, yo, I think, then I'll reason. And then it's as it pertains to my artists now, they trust me. They trust my judgment, and that's a key thing, to be able to give advice when someone trusts you, you know.
Mm-hmm. And two of your artists, you know, who have sought your advice in the past, Savannah, Leela, IK, you must be really proud of their progression so far.
I'm so proud. I'm so proud of them. Like that's the bee in my bonnet. That's what they call it. Like that's my joy right now in music, is their success. And Leela obviously came out and blew up like very quickly as well. Her ascension was fast, and Savannah was a bit slower because she came out before Leela, but Leela got a lot of traction early. But to see Savannah's EP that she just come out with and the massive success of it so far, Mango over 1 million views in less than in 3 weeks. These are numbers that Savannah has never seen. So for her, I'm so happy that she's been able to feel the success and to feel like, wow, I'm doing it too. Like we're all doing amazing. And so for both of them, I'm so happy, and they deserve everything they get.
So tell us about what's the setup, because I know that they're part of you manage them, don't you, as part of the Indie Collective? Yeah.
Right.
So for those who maybe don't know, just explain exactly what the Indie Collective is, like, as a company.
Indie Collective is a company that, like a parent company for a lot of things I do. So it's a label that signed 3 artists, about to be 4, but it's me, Savannah, and Leela Ike. And then we also do artist management. So I consist under that as well. Savannah and Leela. And lots of creatives. Yannick Reed, my creative director, who does a lot of my visuals. My mom, who runs the company day to day and manages myself, along with overseeing everybody. Claire, my label manager. Jamila, my assistant, my executive assistant, who pretty much is a clone of me. So all my responsibilities are her. And just more and more people are coming on board to help with it. So it's like good creative admins, everything, just trying to build an industry and add to it. We have events like New Wave, live from Kingston, just different things that we do creatively. So it's just growing.
So how do you manage to balance doing that with focusing on your own music? That must be a real task.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge. It's a challenge, but I did things to make myself more efficient. Like I built a studio, like a house. In a house, I moved in, so I live at the studio for the most part. Um, I spend a lot of time doing work, and I have a super strong team. And my artists that I work with are also very self-sufficient. So it's hard, it's a challenge, but I think to make something of your life is a challenge. So I mean, it's part of it.
Would you say that you get more satisfaction from seeing your artists blossom than you getting that success yourself, or is it a bit of both?
It's both. I think after like maybe at 3 years in my career, I would have said I get more joy from me. But for me, I feel so blessed that everything else I get in music is brought. Everything else I achieve, I'll take it as bonus. 11 years of music, 10 years between albums. Like I feel happy. I still want to work, but it's from a different place. It's my thing more now is about more about the craft, that's being better, being a better artist, better producer, than to say, oh, looking for that break. You know what I mean? It's like I'm just whatever happens, happens, but I'm just so happy. For them, it's like to see people's dreams come true reminds me of being 1 year, 2 years in. So it kind of does give me more joy to see them because it's double. It's like they're happy and I am happy. It's funny, we spoke about this because we all have projects coming out. So I was like, yo, if we get nominated for Grammys together, like, you know, who would you want to win? And we know we'd be talking about that. And Leela was like, yo, me and Leela was like, yo, I'm not gonna lie, still diggy, but me want to win one for myself. I'm like, bro, it's just an EP. Like, I need to get mine. And we're laughing about it. And I told her that, well, you know, if she wins one, I get one a Grammy as well because I executive produce her project. So if she or Savannah wins, they can be two. So maybe it's more efficient if one of them win, you know.
So how did it feel when you got your Grammy nomination? Was that something that you were expecting?
I wasn't expecting it. I took my mind off of it, but I felt very happy for my mom because my mom really wanted a Grammy nomination. My mom really wants a Grammy, you know what I mean? Because she
To
thinks,
validate all those years
yeah,
of.
you know what it is? She just wants me to be recognized because she wasn't recognized for the work she did in reggae music. She's like a brilliant singer who two number one songs before she was 20 years old. So she's like basically what Koffee was doing when she was 19, having number ones. My mom was doing that. And she left to pursue law and she always, you know, she always gets left out of conversations with music. So for me, it's like she's always like, you know, I don't want them to deny you your credit, but I always tell her that, you know, I don't really do music for credit from people like that. I do music to connect with people, and I think people have been connecting to my music. And as you said, bro, to be 10 years in, 11 years in, and be having like the peak of my career like every year, it's like, bro, like it makes me think that maybe next year could be even be greater than this year. And when you're doing that, it's just energizing.
And a massive achievement for you this year was, of course, signing to RCA earlier this year. Tell us how that came about, because I think there's an interesting story behind that I saw you put up on your Twitter the other day.
I was in LA. I was at a Kylie Jenner party. This guy comes over
First
to
of all,
me.
what were you doing at the Kylie Jenner party?
Bro, one of my connects in LA, this dude called Josephi brought me. He was like, yo, what are you doing tonight? I'm like, I'm chilling. He's like, yo, you gotta come through. Kylie Jenner is launching this shoe called the Falcon Adidas, something like that. And he's like, yo, come through. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go check it out. So I go, and this guy comes over to me, and I see a couple of people I know. I'm like, all right, this is cool. I saw Kelly's there. It was a vibe, and I was like, he came over. He's like, yo, bro, I love your music, man. You should come smoke with us. Come hang out with me and my cousin. Want to talk to you about something. So I was like, all right, I'm going to Malibu tomorrow. It's a crazy. I'm gonna be name dropping, but that's just why I was. I went to Malibu to do some work with Major Lazer, and I went there and I drove back from Malibu at like 1 a.m. and I was dead tired. I go back to my hotel and I get a call from them. It's like, yo, we're at the studio, and I'm like, I just met this guy. I don't really know who he is. Like, he wants to talk about music and smoke at the studio. Like, do I really? And I'm like, I have a feeling that this could be. I remember I said it. My girlfriend was with me in LA, and I remember saying to her, she's like, "Are you really gonna go? Are you tired?" I'm like, "Yo, I think this could be life changing." And she's like, "Yo, well, go." I go. We're there chilling, smoking. AK, the guy who came over to me, and his cousin Archie, who is like vice president of marketing at RCA now. And he was like, bro, I'm going to RCA. I want to take some new music there. I don't want it, I want it to be something different. And I think that you're an artist I could sign and we could build. So I was like, yeah, I'd love to be signed, but like I really, have some other artists. So I started to play them Savannah stuff and he's blown away. He hears Savannah stuff, he's blown away. And he's like, oh my gosh, she needs to be signed too. And I'm like, yeah. And I play him Leela stuff. And he's like, what the fuck do you have going there? Like, how is this happening? And I'm like, he's like, yo, you don't need to be signed, yo. I'm going to get you a label deal. And he'd said that. And 1 year later it took. And I signed with RCA about 1 year and 2 months after that meeting. But all along, I wasn't putting out music and I was telling all my artists to be like, yo, we're waiting until this happens. So everybody was kind of aggy, like, yo, we need to be releasing. I'm like, yo, just let's hang in there and wait. And they were patient and it worked out, fortunately.
So you get signed. What's the immediate change? So is there any sort of immediate change that you've noticed?
This platform, the label is super cool about what we're doing. Like in every meeting and in reality, it's like, we love what you're doing. Keep making the music you're making. We're going to stay out of your way. We're going to give some suggestions, but maintain your creative control. Do what you need to do and we will support it. And supporting with like all the other things they support with. So it's been a really good relationship. And the difference I've seen is just the ability to work, to churn out music in terms of visuals and giving the music platform for Leela to be doing MTV live on their feed, for her to be featured on different things, like, so it's just to help give Jamaica music platform, which I've always thought has been our biggest problem.
And in this day of sort of independent artists, seeming to be doing a lot of things themselves, do you still feel like a major record label is necessary to get you to that next level? Like, is it actually something that you need?
Some artists may need it, some artists may not need it. I think everybody has to go and see what they want to do. Like, I still own my masters and I still run. So I'm signed to Indie Collective. I'm not signed to RCA. Leela is not signed to RCA. Savannah is not signed to RCA. But our label is signed to RCA. Do you know what I mean? So it's like they really have a contract with Indig, and so do I. So I have maintained a good amount of control over my work, which was important to me. Maybe an artist that's just coming out, it's not as important. You know what I mean? It's just different things. I think you have to look at your situation and feel like what's best for me. Let me adjust, let me adapt. And I think that's what I did. And for now, it has helped out and to help give us a platform as a Jamaican artist.
So you've just released your first official album on the label, In Search of Lost Time. Tell us about that title. Where does that title come from, In Search of Lost Time?
Just being stuck in a place, like feeling like time is slipping away from you because you're focused on other things. So In Search of Lost Time is me looking back at 10 years and seeing, oh, my daughter is getting bigger, my parents are getting older, I'm missing birthdays and weddings for my friends. neglecting my relationship, not giving enough attention, being on different, just really looking at what my life is becoming. And I love my life and I appreciate it, but at the same time, I'm like, whoa, like I'm missing out on time, and I want to have all the time I can. And it's like while you go for one thing, you lose energy somewhere else. So it's me trying to search for time that I've lost and just trying to regain it.
Do you feel like it's your responsibility as, you know, a talented artist to prioritize, you know, your music career over your personal life? Because I think, like you're saying, you know, you can't really get that level of success that you've got without sacrificing other things, you know, such as personal life, you know, and things like that.
I think personal life is the main thing, to be honest. I think art of life is the finest of the arts. So I think that's the main thing. But at the same time, you have to be focused on balance. Balance is the main thing. It's just balance. Try to find the right balance of what you can do, because to be successful, as I say, you have to dedicate times, and having good supportive cast around also really helps with understanding that, you know, this is what he needs to do to get where we need to get to. And I think all of that put together, you know,
I
kind
saw
of
you do an
helps.
interview with Winford Williams a few years ago now, and you said in that interview that in 2010, you said, give me 10 years to achieve all that we need to achieve, you know, with this new reggae revival, as you put it at the time. Do you feel like you've achieved that? We're in 2020 now, you know, 10 years down the line.
I definitely do think it's where it won. Like Koffee is one of the biggest artists Jamaica has seen in a while. Leela is blowing up. See what Chronix is doing. Three of us getting signed on a label deal. Other artists getting signed. See what Shensia is doing. Not that she has come up with us, but I mean, we see what Jamaica music industry is doing on a whole, and I'm very proud of what's happening. And I feel that in terms of like the reggae revival portion of it now, like this is now you are seeing the fruit of it. Like you're seeing the Koffee, you're seeing the Leela, you're seeing the Moratima, you're seeing what's happening. And there's still lots of work to do, but I feel for sure that reggae music is in a better state in 2020 than it was in 2010. Like that's not debatable at all. So I'm just very grateful.
And do you feel like we've got to a place now where we've got past that reggae revival thing now, and it's creating something new and completely of its own identity? Because, you know, a lot of what you release now, you wouldn't even class it as reggae. Do you know what I mean?
I think so. I think it's just that was the transitional period into leading into this right now. Like first of all, getting attention back to reggae music, and now innovating it and moving it forward.
Protoje, it's been a pleasure, bro. Thank you very much for joining us, man.
Thank you.